My name is Randy Jennings. I am President and CEO of Education Technology Partners, headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri. Founded the company in 2003. We are a distributor, a provider of proven education technology solutions to school districts with the emphasis on helping school administrators find proven technology solutions that meet the expectations put on them by state, local, federal mandates.
How many employees do you have?
15. Sales organization and then a professional development training organization. Most of us are educators by background, so we try to not only talk the talk but walk the walk.
How did you start out?
The seed of Education Technology Partners started when I was at Apple Computer from '84 to 1996. And at Apple, we really tried to build a technology that addressed the needs of educators. A lot of other technology companies tried to get into the education market, but we really believe that, again, as educators, we recognize the special needs demands of both the classroom, of the teacher, of the administrator, and tried to have products that reflected that. However, technology, in particular hardware, is never any better than your software. And I felt that most of the software that was out there, frankly, was not good. Most of the software was being produced by publishers who know how to put ink on paper extremely well. They know precious little, I feel, about the true application of technology in education.
I've heard the expression, we're preparing kids for a world that doesn't exist. You know, I mean, there's truth to that, there's sadness to that.
You look at education, you go back to the ancient Greeks and Romans where, you know, I stand and I will talk and you will listen, and that worked great for Socrates and Aristotle. The next great advancement, 1600s, Gutenberg. Big move when we could put words on paper. Huge. Then you go back and look at education. I would argue the next real big advancement was the chalkboard. Hundreds of years passed in these cycles. I played a role in bringing technology into the classroom in the early 80s and 90s at Apple, but I still believe we have yet to fulfill the promise of integrating technology into the classroom. How do we do it? We do it by, I think, recognizing technology as a simple tool, exactly like the piece of chalk and the chalkboard and the book and the teacher. But collectively, we look at ways to ensure that our children and the next generations understand their responsibility for exploring these technologies, for their responsibility for embracing alternative means of learning, their responsibility for lifelong learning. I graduate, I go to work, I work 9 to 5. It isn't going to be that way anymore.
You know, early stage funding for entrepreneurs is always a big issue. What's been your experience there? People always go to venture capitalists and think that's going to be the fountain they need to tap into.
Too often the conversation about entrepreneurship begins and ends with venture capitalists. And if you really are passionate, if you really have thought through what you're trying to do, if you have the belief that this is needed, and if you won't accept failure, failure is not an option when you have a second mortgage on your house and raising kids, you just do it. I think I've talked to many people who talk on and on and on about their various trips back and forth across the country to present, to try to get the money. They're not doing anything other than talking to people about the money. To me, I'd rather spend that time talking to prospects, to customers, to educators, to do the thing I set out to do. I set out to follow sort of the heart and the beat of my heart and the passion I felt to try to help education through the application of technology. Too often, entrepreneurship is viewed through the premise of the lens of I have a widget that I need to make more of, and if I can make 1 million widgets as opposed to one at a time, my margins decrease, our profits increase, so let's go out and get somebody to help me make these widgets. And entrepreneurship isn't only about making widgets. There's a lot of things you can do as an entrepreneur, and mine's a great example of, I'm a channel of distribution. For all intents and purposes, I'm a portal into a school district. And if I had a lot more money, I'd have more people, I'd have more marketing, but my time was best spent gaining the confidence and retaining the confidence of an educator, of a school administrator, that if I asked for 5 minutes of your time, and at the end of it, you would say, Randy, that was time well spent. Maybe I don't need that technology solution that you talked to me about today, but I agree with you, I will, and you're going to be the first person I call.
I mean, it's apparent that you hold true and you stay steadfast to your fundamental principles, the reason that you've done this to begin with. We've seen so many examples, even very large companies sort of lose themselves and make a odd pricing decision or a product decision that runs counter.
But I know at Apple, there were times we were driven to generate a revenue number at the end of the quarter. And I sat in meetings where we would make decisions that I felt were not in the best interest of both the company as a whole and, frankly, our customers. But Wall Street dictated that we would meet a number. And that, too, is a byproduct of that traditional raise money from a venture capitalist, a group of venture capitalists, go public, make huge dollars, retire at the age of 32. I don't know what the hell you do with yourself, but, knock yourself out. And what you dreamt about, what was your creation, what was, what got you out of bed in the morning at 5 and 6 a.m. to catch some of these flights, it was now in the hands of who knows who. And in fact, then this amorphous Wall Street thing made decisions that you never would have made 3, 5, 10 years earlier. There was a saying at Apple a long time ago that still resonates with me, and that is, the journey is the reward. That what we do every day, my talking to you today, my being at this conference, what I did last week, what I hope to do next month, is the exciting part. It is not generating a number at the end of each quarter and then turn right around and face that same challenge 90 days later.
How do you instill that, and how do you bring people to join you? Because finding the right people and having them, have that same feeling as you do is another thing that entrepreneurs sort of struggle with.
If I can't get you excited about what I'm trying to do enough to say, hey, why don't you think about joining my company and become a part of this? If we don't have enough common DNA to, want to improve education, to understand education, to believe in technology, to feel as though we can bring meaningful dialogue and inject meaningful dialogue in an industry that is looking for solutions. If you don't see that as an opportunity, then you and I really shouldn't be talking.
Can you step back and say, this is what we've built, or are you always looking at what's missing?
I have a vision of what it could be, and it just seems to be in me, I'm constantly sort of a chess move or 2 or 3 down the road. I said to my wife just the other day, I wish at times I could sort of live in the present and pat myself on the back for being here, for instance. But instead, I'm more apt to be thinking about where we can be a year from now. How do I get here 5 years, and for the next successive 5 years? And that's okay. I'm all right with that. It's just who I am.
Are there moments, though, that you hold close, that you keep in mind, that you think, this is the impact that I as a person have made?
Oh, sure. To hear the story about that 8th grader who now is able to read at grade level because they had worked with some software that we introduced at School District 2 is, frankly, the reason I got into education, to help kids realize her potential. It doesn't fuel what I do as much as it reaffirms that we're doing the right thing. But it also underscores the fact that there's a lot more to be done, and it continues to be the challenge.
Nice.
It worked?
Great job.
Well, thank you.